everybody. I would like to start with the image you see. These are mouse movements representation from using Facebook for an hour. And if you ever went into application and felt like you are in a maze, then you probably thought about the navigation in that application. And this is what I want to talk about today. I will do a short intro about navigation, talk a little bit about what you need to prepare before you start to design your navigation, and then about some consideration while you do the design. My name is Nurit, and I'm product manager. Navigation goals are quite obvious. You want to help the user, support them through your application. But if you want to be a bit more specific, you want to enable users that know where they want to go. You want sometimes to lead users to a specific place, like the checkout. You want to help them avoid some places. And sometimes they just want to explore, and you want to let them do that as well. They want to see what's in the application, and they use the navigation system to do that. And of course, they want to go from one task to the next one. And it's important to see the different goals, although they overlap a little bit, because when you come to think on your navigation system, you need to have all these goals in your mind. You will always have different users and different strategies, and you want to accommodate all of those. So when I said I want to do a talk about navigation, quite a lot of people ask me, why navigation? And that kind of surprised me, because for me it was obvious, but I understood I probably need to explain it. So for me, navigation is the heart of the product. It's like a mini application inside your application, and it really makes the difference for the user if they can do their task or not. It's also the heart of the design process. You actually have almost the entire process also for the navigation. When I talk with startup owners, founders, a lot of them have technical background. And when they think about navigation, in some cases or many cases, they think about software architecture. They think about components, which is a little bit different from the way I see it, we see it. And that's a bit of a gap that we need to kind of overcome. One of the things that I find very important is the phase when you start designing the navigation. For me, if you started too early, sometimes right after discussing the general idea of the application and its goal, some people want to start Sketch. And when they start Sketch, they start from the frame, which is usually the navigation. And that's early. That's like having an elevator before having the building. You still don't know how many floors. You don't know who will come to the building, how many people, what they're going to do there, what will be in each floor. And you want to have the elevator? That's not reasonable. The same for the navigation. You still need to do some work before you can start even planning the navigation. What kind of work? Research. And I know research for some people can be a little bit intimidating. Not us, but when you talk to your team or your startup. So you don't have to call it research, okay? You just need to do the research. What is that research? That's like any design research. You need to know your users, observe them, interview, right? You need to really get intimate with them. You need to understand what their tasks, and for each task, what is the flow that they are using today, even if it's not using a software. If they pick up the phone, if they go to talk to a person, you need to know what is the flow that they are using. And of course, the content, the objects, the information for each object that they need, the different entities, the relationships. After you did this part, you should be able to understand the mental model the users have on the task that you are looking at. The mental model is the way user grasps their environment and the way they interact with it. They probably cannot articulate it, but they have it in their minds. It is subjective. and it may differ from user to user. It's important to understand that in order to think about the interaction model you want to have in your own application. A very straightforward example is the library, which we all know and have a mental model for. And once you want to design a library application, like very fast grew when we start having tablets around us, then you need to decide if you want the interaction model to be very similar to the library, the physical library model, or you want it a different one. Both options are good as long as you have in your mind the mental model of the user. And you need to go through information architecture of your area and make sure you understand what the information, what are the relationships, how you want to organize it, label it. When you organize the information, an important point is to prioritize. And sometimes I find even quite experienced UX people skip that part. So I guess a lot of you know this image because it was quite viral in the last couple of months. And when you look at it for the first time, for most of you, the thought was, okay, someone did a wrong design here. And one of our hobbies, I'm sure, is to criticize other people's design, right? It's really cool. And you know, the shorter path is where the user prefer to go. But one of my colleagues, Vitali, he's over there, he actually looked into the details of this and found out that actually the more frequent way here is to go through the paved road and to the right. So the design decision was actually good. They paved the more frequent way. Still, some people decide to go the other way. That's okay. But the picture, which is partial, makes us feel that it's actually most people going on the non-paved road, which is not correct when you look on the entire picture. So do research, do it good, and you'll get the right prioritization. Now you can start Sketch. Still not the navigation, but you can sketch the screens. You don't have to sketch all of them, but at least a good amount, so you have some kind of feeling what will be in each screen, how will it look like, what will be the relationships. Now you probably have quite a good understanding of your building, and you can add the elevator. Now you can start designing the navigation. And here are some considerations for doing that process. So I spoke about thinking of your interaction model, and there are a lot of things you need to consider. Some of them are around the user needs. Will the user be interrupted during using your application with alerts that you are providing, someone else providing, with a phone call when it's a mobile application? Will they be using other application? Will they be using multiple screens or a single screen, and so on? So this influences the interaction model. You also need to think about flows versus entities, and I'll try to explain that with an example. If you are designing an airline application, one of the actions there is to select a seat in the plane. You will do it if you go to reserve your flight. As part of your flow of reserving a flight, you will have the option to select your seat. That's one flow. Another flow is for the gate agent, the person at the gate who closes the flight, also have an option to change people's seats. So they need to select seats for people. They have a completely different flow, but they do the same action of selecting a seat. So there are two different flows with the same action. Now you need to think how you want your interaction model to be, through flows, or going to a seat selection capability and do the selection. Other consideration can be around the system. What are the entities' relationship? Is there a hierarchy? Is it shallow or deep? Even sometimes performance consideration can influence your navigation. If you're dealing with big data and you may have performance issues, you want to take it into account in your interaction model. Now it's time to select the pattern. Think for a minute how many steps we did before we got to this, which sometimes people do just as they start thinking about the application. There are different patterns. You can find a lot of them online, and a bunch will fit the model you were thinking of. For each pattern, there are advantages and disadvantages that you need to consider, and you need to consider that while thinking about the research you did. I'll just give an example. You all, I'm sure, know the hamburger pattern. It's very popular, especially for mobile, and it has a lot of advantages. It saves space. It's considered to be easy to use. You can put a lot of options there. So a lot of applications use it, including Google+, until recently. If you open your phones now and look at your Google+ application, you will see they added a bottom bar. That's quite new. They understood that the hamburger is not enough because it doesn't help the user with the main options, because all the options are on the same level. Other research around this pattern found that at some age ranges, it is not considered easy to use. It will not fit some of the users. It also doesn't provide a way to lead users to a specific task, and so on. So although it can be really good for some applications, it may not be good for your application. You need to check it out. And this brings me to mobile and responsive design, which is one of the major considerations while doing a navigation design. You're probably designing something now. It might be a native Android app, and you probably have some thoughts about what you will be designing tomorrow, maybe also a native for iOS or a web application. And there's always a question or a kind of a tension between, will I design what is right for what I'm doing now, or will I think about, the future and design already something that will fit everything? Unfortunately, there is no easy answer. But especially when you work with startups and resources are many times limited, you probably need to concentrate, at least on now or the near future, not much further than that. My point is, if you did your research and you really thought about your interaction model, probably you can also have different UI patterns. And it still will hold up, because you have a model and users will understand the interaction model even if they need to use different patterns on their mobile, for example, and on the web. So in some cases, I got the question about search. So, maybe instead of going through all this and doing all this work on navigation, we can just use search in our application. People love to search. Everybody uses Google. They all know it. And, it gives great results. Let's use search, save space, and that will be our navigation. So, of course, search is good, and it has a lot of value, and you probably should use it. But will it answer all the navigation goals we had at the beginning? So probably not. Users don't know what to search for. At least some of them will not know. And if you want to lead them somewhere, you cannot do it with search, right? And they will not be able to look around and see what value your application may give them. So there's also a lot of things missing if you just use search. Other option I'm asked about is to copy from someone else. Someone that's doing a similar business in the same market. Let's just copy the navigation they have. I've seen a ton of e-commerce application copying Amazon navigation during the years. So copying can be a good option. People already know this, they have the model for it, and it will be easy for them to use. But just remember that whatever you are copying, they might change what they are doing. So Amazon, for example, had really, really great tabs in 2004. Everybody copied that if you were around at that time. They kind of changed it in 2007 and also in between, but I didn't want to bring too many options. And again in 2010, and then this is how it looks today. So while you may copy them, they already will change it. And you need to still make sure that it fits what you need, not just copy what someone else is doing. The market is changing, they will be changing as well. And last, I would like to talk about MVP. In our context, minimal value product. In the picture context, it's a player. And for many UXers, it's a reason to cry. It's not easy when you come and they tell you, okay, we have this big idea, but we are now just doing this. Please design it. Because as UXers, we are grown to look at the big picture and understand everything. And we want to do the whole thing and think ahead and so on. And there is no, I'm not sure there is an easy solution. There are a few options. My take on this is you do need to look ahead, but not too far away. Okay, so in a year, everything may change. You will be in a different position. They will be in a different, they will pivot twice until then, and the market will change as well. So don't look so much forward. But you may want to look a few sprints ahead so you won't change everything too fast. Hopefully you think like me that navigation is very important to your application. You need to build a building before you start working on it, and then you can do the design for it. Thank you.